Project started about 4 years ago when the Imperial War Museum had a meeting with me, and they wanted to commission a documentary to commemorate the armistice, the end of the First World War. And that was still 4 years away. This is back in 2014.
Hey everybody, Eric has made awesome, and I'm doing a short video today. I haven't made a video in a long time. I've been busy with school stuff, but I just want to do a quick reaction on the movie called They Shall Not Grow Old. I just saw it a couple minutes ago, not a couple minutes, like 30 minutes ago, and I thought I'd do a quick reaction video on it. The video may seem kind of be not a rant, but I might be rambling on for a good amount of time and might not seem to have a point. But I'll try my best to keep it nice and concise and have a point of view and have a subject and have a thesis. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a, what's I'm looking for? A lowdown on what the movie's about. So the movie is essentially about Peter Jackson, who's made a couple movies like Lord of the Rings. I think that's all he's done, really. I think he did King Kong. Yeah, he did King Kong. He's made a bunch of big Hollywood movies, and so essentially what he does is for the 100th for the anniversary of 100 years, the 100th anniversary since the end of the First World War, which was just this year. The Imperial War Museum asked him to make a documentary film on the First World War to kind of commemorate that event or that anniversary. And so for 4 years, Peter Jackson decided to come up with a film. For 4 years, he worked on this documentary. And what he came up with was he took a lot of the footage he was given from the Imperial War Museum and colorized it, made it to where the soldiers aren't that janky. It makes you seem like they were actually filmed with modern equipment. It seems like, to where it's slowed down and the movement seems actually natural and not so quickly janky and all that stuff. And pretty much what he does is that he creates the experience of a German soldier in the trenches. British soldier. He creates the experience of a British soldier in the trenches in the First World War. And so that's essentially what the film does. And it, just to give you my perception on it, it's very, very, very well done. I think it right now has a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. But no, the film is amazing. It definitely deserves a review score it got. So I guess this review I was trying to do is kind of break down kind of how the film was kind of made and how it kind of comes out. And then I'll give you my final thoughts at the end. So essentially the film, it does have a narrative in a sense. It starts with the beginning of the war, so around 1914, and kind of like how did the soldiers who would go on to serve in the First World War, kind of like how their transition was, and from civilian life into the army, and then of course into the war. The middle part covers a lot about the soldiers' life in the trenches and the different challenges they faced. The last part is basically what it feels like to go. Actually, before that, they go into like what's like behind the trenches. And then it goes into the offensive, like how does it feel like to be a soldier, to go over the top in World War I, the initial fears, and then to actually go through it. And the way he does it is remarkable. I won't really give it away, but I think he provides a really good a feeling of what it feels like to be in combat, the chaos, the destruction, killing the enemy, things like that. And he does it in a very unique way, and I think it's kind of jarring at first, but I really think it's meant to create that type of view. So I think because when you see combat in Hollywood, a lot of times it's very much like they try to create chaos, but it's still like they've set the camera down. The person wants to get like a certain reaction from the audience from watching that certain area, like a certain soldier being shot and things like that. But what he does is he creates this chaos with the way he produces the film, which is, I think, a really interesting choice, and it does come out well. It creates the effect that it wants it to. And then the last part of the film, after that, he talks about like how the soldiers kind of, what were their soldiers' experiences like after the war, like trying to get back into civilian life and the challenges associated with that type of event. So just to kind of give so that's kind of like how the film kind of goes. And the way, I guess the next part I'll kind of talk about is like the motions and kind of how it's pulled off. So in the first part, the first part, a lot of it's filled with black and white, regular footage you would have seen if you're just watching a regular documentary without any colorization or the things they've added. Um, but then around the 30-minute mark, or I don't know how long it was, it goes into the actual color and things like that. So it's not just colorization that Peter Jackson does. What he also does, he adds in sounds. So if the soldiers are like moving their equipment, moving their weapons, or trunching through mud, like you hear that sound. And also they brought in actual lip readers. So where you can actually they brought in also actors as well. So if a soldier is from a certain regiment, Peter Jackson brought in an actual actor who can speak that language or that dialect for which that soldier is in England. And with the voice readers and then with the actor, you can actually hear the soldiers what they're saying on camera. And so that's such. And then not only with that, of course, they have the color and everything and cool little camera tricks. But what that actually does is that it creates like this connection with that person. Like you actually feel like that person could be you. Like you're actually in their reality, or our reality, I guess you can say. And before, when you didn't have that, it was very much like there was that disconnect because it didn't. The footage was like this. Sometimes it was like really dark. Sometimes it was, it didn't seem like real person. It didn't seem like it actually happened. But to have that in there, you have that connection. It's like wow, it creates a lot more deeper effect than you wouldn't have otherwise. You have that connection with that person, and so that it's kind of hard to explain, to be fair. But you just feel like it carries weight, has impact. And when you go and watch the film, and I hope you guys do, you really get to feel that. And like because it was cool because Peter Jackson, they did like a 30-minute documentary of how they made it after the credits rolled. I think it was only for theaters. I don't know if they had it for home release, but they kind of talk about the how much effort they put into it. Like the grass is like the color, the attention to the grass, attention to the dirt, the attention to the uniforms, like the ways in which Peter Jackson went to like get the right colors. Like he had all the uniforms set up to where you can actually get the right colors of the different emblems and the shine of the guns, and the artillery. They actually got actual artillery shell firings, even to the point where like a lot of times what happened is like you would hear as a soldier in the First World War, artillery shells going over you. And so what they did is that they actually got, just to give you like an idea of how deep they went, like essentially they went to a fire range with I think the New Zealand Army, and they put microphones in different places, of course, next to the gun, one in the middle to where the shell's firing over, and then one where the shell exploded. And so with that, you really get that sense of like that connection to it. And then with that, with the battle scene and the way they did it, you start to you get the reason why they did the way they did, and also you just get that connection, which I think no other film has done. And then, but it's just kind of going off riff right now. It's weird, not weird, but it's just like you feel like you're there. Like you really, really do feel like you're there. Like the sounds, like the voices and things like that. And then also upon that as well, they didn't use like historians to kind of narrate over the pieces. They actually had the British soldiers who actually served in the First World War. They took their interviews they did with the BBC, like in the 60s and 70s, and kind of narrated and sprinkled it around where it fitted well, where the narration fit well with the certain scene you're looking at. And it's like the soldiers are telling you what they feel like, and you're seeing what they're talking about, like in real time, and you actually see it, and it's that connection, which I don't think any other film has done. And so if I was to, it's like when they go that transition where it's like black and white into color, it's just like whoa.
No smoking. Captain Dendaris, right to the front trenches.
When a man goes in the trenches, he usually carries a roll of barbed wire or a bag of bombs, besides his own equipment.
It's a whoa moment. Like, holy crap. Like, I'm in it now. And it was cool because I also watched it in 3D, so it got that more feel. But I think if you do it in 2D, you'll get the same feeling. But And it was cool because when Peter Jackson was talking about it, like using all those effects, he really didn't try to. He didn't want to put his own. I mean, of course, he has his own view on the war because he's a human being, but he really did not try to put his own bias into the film. It's very much like this is this is what the soldiers seen. This is what they said. This is what they thought about the war the war they fought in, and so to bring that effect, and it's really cool to see that. And you just get a whole different perception. I think also at the end, you also get a different perception of war as well. I think the perception that I kind of get from it, and I think I really got this at the end of the film. I mean, I'll try not to spoil it or try to take away the impact that it gives, but like that sense of, because of what the soldiers talk about is kind of like they're coming back into society, and after everything they see and you start to see kind of like their plight in a sense, because after the war they're kind of, I think this happens in our own society with soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. Like society wants you to come back and be normal, like don't have problems, don't go back in society like a normal person. And after an event like that, there's no such thing as normal. Like you've experienced the worst of what humanity has to give you. And so for myself, from a research standpoint, that's the thing I really would like to do is after a violent event like that, after war, which I don't think no one really understands the impact it has on a person. I think for also historians and also regular people too, like when people talk about war, they like to talk about tactics, the guns and things like that. Well, historians, they kind of, not say they don't understand the tactics and like that, they kind of brush over the impact that a soldier, like what the impact of what happens to a soldier after that event. And like for myself, like you don't ever return to normalcy, you know what I'm saying? And so for myself, I like to kind of view like how does a person's viewpoint of the world change, and kind of their viewpoints on culture, education, economy, politics for me is an interesting point for me. And how does that change the course of human history? How does that change the way we kind of go forward in human evolution, or I won't say evolution, or human advancement going forward in a forward event. And so for myself, I think that's something that really hit home for me because I'm really interested in that stuff. And that's kind of what I got from it, is that impact, which I have never got ever in a film. And then we're at the closing stages right now, and that was kind of my closing viewpoint on it. But if I was just gonna have a couple last things to say on it, is that well, actually, before I go to that point, my professor that I work with at UC Davis, he actually studies the First World War, and so when I talked about this film, the one thing they talked about is that when you read the diaries and the notes that the soldiers left behind and different things like that, they talk about the blueness of the grass, the blueness of the sky, the greenness of the grass, the mud being, or the rats and these things like that. Like they see color in their world, and to see it how we see it, which is what Peter Jackson was trying to do, it really brings that impact, and it really makes you feel like, damn, like now you have a little bit more of a glimpse into what in a ridiculous event that was, to kind of see it and how it was supposed to be in a sense. So for myself, I think that was the thing I got out of most, was the impact. When you go and watch this film, you're going to feel the impact. And it's not only like, there's also a lot of funny stuff too in there too. It's kind of like how the soldiers dealt with the tension, which I really did like. It's all aspects of warfare. I mean, all aspects of their war, at least. And the good, the bad, the ugly, and different things like that. And, I think that's a film that everyone should see. I really do think so. It's a really good film. And even if you're not into military history, I think you have a better respect for the different things people go through. And I think this type of event can be kind of tied to any form of, not torture, but just a very large and very impactful event on someone's life and kind of what they go through. So I'm going to wrap right now before I do. I think if we're talking about, if this was to be a review, I think talk about the negatives, and for me, there's no real negatives. The thing I would have liked is them to talk about like women as well, because I think women had a really unique impact on the war, And the good thing is that Peter Jackson at the end of the film, he talks about how when he was trying to make this film, there was different things he can touch, different parts of the war he could touch. But he felt like this is the best way to kind of get a very narrative-driven, in the trenches, really go in depth on this subject. So, yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing film. Go check it out. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my little rant. Not my rant, but my little rambling. Hopefully I had some type of point of view on the film. But yeah. So before I leave off, I'll let you guys know that I will hopefully be making a lot more videos in the new year. I'm dealing with a lot of school stuff right now. So in the new year, I'm going to be definitely a lot more active, as I'll have a lot more free time to really be creative with my work and hopefully make it good. But yeah, so that's what's been going on with me. And yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys next one. Peace out.